In this video, we'll go over the concept of sending arrays as parameter to functions. When we send an array to a function, we can either send individual elements or we can send the whole structure with all the values. In this first example, I've written the function squares that receives an integer and returns the square of the input. This example demonstrates how you would send individual elements of an array to a function. So the function is written here, lines 4 through 8. Return type is an integer, name of the function is squares, receives an integer parameter, and then returns the square of the number. Now in the main, I'll declare an integer array, A. Let's say it's got 5 elements in there, and we'll initialize it 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, let's say. Here's our array. And now, let's utilize the function squares. I am going to have cout and write down the square of, let's say, the element at index 2 of the array. A of 2 is, and now I call the function squares, and as a parameter I send the element of the array. Oops, there's parentheses here. I'll send the element of the array at index 2. End line. And that's it. So in this particular case, I'm sending one element of the array, in particular the element at index 2, to the function that receives a single integer, and the square of that integer is returned. We'll run this. Let's see what comes out. Square of 4 is 16. Good. So that works out. That's how you send individual elements to functions. The second example, starting at line 11, it's asking you to write a function that receives an integer array. So that's the whole structure that the function receives, and prints its elements. So the return type of this particular function is void. It's going to print the element of the array. The name of it, let's call it print array, and it receives an integer array x, and this is the syntax to indicate that the parameter is an array, right? So int x is the array and empty brackets, and when you send an array to a function, you've got to send the size of the array as well. So here is size. Right? So the name of the array in the function is x, and the size is denoted by the size variable. So in this function x is received, we are going to write a for loop, start from index 0, go all the way up to the size of the array, and then increment. And inside this loop, we'll print the array. And the elements of the array would be x of I, 1 space, and then semicolon. So the elements of the array are printed horizontally. Once the loop is finished, we are done. We are going to have cout end line just to format the output. So if I run this program, well, I shouldn't run it. First, I got to send the array up. So let's say this array A that I've created in the main, I'm going to send it up to the function and have the function print it. So I'm going to call print array. The name of the array is A, no brackets, just the name of the array, and then the size here is 5. So I'm calling the function print array, sending the array up to the function along with its size, and the function will print it. Now we'll try it. And we'll see here is the output, and the elements of the array 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are printed. Okay. Now, the last item for this video is this fact that the arrays, when passed as parameter to functions, they are passed by reference. So meaning that if the function changes the values of the elements in the array, it will be permanent. So as an example, we can write a function here. Let's call a function, again, return type is void, let's say, and let's call it change values. And this change values function receives an integer array, once again let's call it an x, and its size, and then what it does, it just updates the values of the array. So it goes through a for loop for int I equal to 0, I less than size, I plus plus, right? And each of the elements x sub I, we are going to set them, let's say, to 1000. So inside the function change values, we are changing the values of the elements of the array, right? And if I go back to the main, I am going to first call this function change values and send our array A to it along with its size. Since array parameters are passed by reference, the changes made to A in the function change values will be permanent. And when I come back, when the function is finished, the change values function is finished, coming back to the main program, we'll take a look at, or I'll make a call to another function, print array. We are going to print and see what's inside A. And what we should see is all 1000, all the elements. Let's run this. 1000. So the function changed the content of the array because the array was passed by reference. Now, if you want security when passing arrays to functions, you don't want the function to change anything inside the array. What you can do is to send array as a constant parameter to function. When you do that, then you can see that this line 24 already gives you an error that you're sending a constant array and you are not allowed to change the content of it, right? So when passing arrays to functions, and intention is not to have the function change the values of the array, you would send it as a constant parameter basically. One more time, we'll run this. And here is the output. So keep in mind, arrays passed to functions, they're passed by reference.